What's going on, everyone? So, Brian Windhorst said that D'Angelo Russell will likely turn down his player option and become a free agent this summer. We also got some odds of Atlanta, obviously, because Trae Young, DeJounte Murray are two players that the Lakers are going to be targeting. So, there may be some type of trade. And especially if you trade for Trae, probably going to need D'Angelo Russell's $18.5 million that he makes next year. You got teams like the Charlotte Hornets, him sticking with the Lakers because he could opt in and the Lakers could keep him, potentially trade him at the trade deadline. Chicago sign and trade for like a DeMar DeRozan or something like that. The Clippers are on there. Portland Trailblazers, Wizards, Washington, or Utah Jazz. Now, obviously, D'Angelo Russell, he blew an absolute bag. Like he did. The guy would have been paid. He had a historically great season. If he would have just been half decent, like not even great. He was great in game 2. 7-11 from 3, shot 50% from the field. Right? Like, if he was even just efficient and gave you 15 a game, one, the Lakers probably be in a much different position, but two, he would have gotten paid. Even if the Lakers got swept and D'Lo was good, right, he would have gotten paid. But the fact that he lived up to the same expectations, like, dude, this guy can't deliver in the playoffs, the only teams that are really going to be interested in him are teams that are either the bottom feeding teams, which you saw on that list are mostly those teams, or a team that's just like, middle of the pack. That's like, let's take on D'Lo for a year. He's an expiring contract. Or, a team like Atlanta that is like, well, we got to take on D'Lo if we're going to trade Trae because we need to match salaries and we don't want to take on, too much long-term salary. So let's just take D'Lo for a year. Something like that. Right. Honestly, I don't think D'Lo is going to opt out. I think two things happen. I think either A, they do the Atlanta trade, and he's like just a part of that, or B, they pull him aside and go, hey man, like, where do you want to go? Let's try to work something out, right? Like there's teams like Orlando that is apparently interested in D'Angelo Russell. If that's true, like I could see the Lakers working out where he opts in and then they eventually trade him somewhere. Now, could they do something where it's like, hey, just to let you know, right, like we're going to trade you at some point, but if we can't find a deal in the summer, you'd carry him over and then maybe you work something out at the trade deadline because he would be an $18 million expiring contract. So he would have some value. So like, let's say the Lakers, just argument's sake, right? Just an example. Let's say the Lakers trade for a Donovan Mitchell, right? They don't need to trade D'Lo to go get Donovan Mitchell. And let's say Cavs are like, no, we don't want Donovan, or we don't want D'Lo. Keep D'Lo. And then, they can't find like a good value trade, right? And it's just like, let's wait and see. Let's see what we need, right? Let's bring D'Lo back. Let D'Lo know, like, hey, dude, you're probably getting traded at some point. And then, let's say you're like, we could use another wing, or we could use like a backup guard or something like that, whatever, right? And then you could use D'Lo to kind of round out the roster, right? Can you go get a piece or two that maybe makes some sense? Or a team, is like, our point guard got hurt. We need somebody to kind of just ride out the rest of the season. Okay, well, let's go trade for D'Lo, right? So I could see those type of things happening. I could see some of those options happening, but I think I would be surprised if D'Lo finishes the season next year with the Lakers. Like I would be shocked. He probably opts in, right? And if he opts in, well then, you work out some type of trade. I mean, it would suck to lose him for nothing, right? Like, but again, how many teams are going to be lining up to sign D'Lo to a bigger contract than $18.5 million? Now, maybe a team does like the JJ Redick rule, where like they have salary that they have to spend, and they're like, like a team like, I don't know, the Spurs. And San Antonio's like, we're probably not making the playoffs this year, but we could use a guard, right, to kind of just like get us through the season until we can find one in the draft or maybe trade for one later or whatever, right? So like, let's just get D'Lo for the year, right? So like, hey, D'Lo, we'll give you $22 million to come and sign. Another example would be like a Bruce Brown, right? Maybe a team kind of does that where it's like, hey, let's bring D'Lo in, like pay him 22 million or 25 million or whatever for a year or two, and then maybe potentially move him and like they did, like you saw Indiana did with Bruce Brown for Pascal Siakam, right? A team could maybe do something like that, but like I don't know, what team is really going to look at him and go, man, let's give him 4 years, 100 million. What team is going to look at and go like, oh, let's give him even like 4 years, 80 million. Right. And it's just like, I don't know. I think more likely than not, he's either part of a trade with Atlanta or whatever, or he's like the Lakers talk to him and go like, hey, what team would you like to go to? We'll contact them and try to see if we can maybe work something out, right? Like if he is like, hey, I would like to go to Orlando, right? Like Orlando does want him, right? Can they work something out to, I mean, in a perfect world, could you go get like a Jalen Suggs and a Gary Harris or something like that? Whatever, right? Like you just go get some pieces for some depth in that regard, right? So let's say probably Trey. I really have a feeling that the Lakers are going to land Trae Young. Because there's just been so much smoke, and usually where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And I know Trey says like, I'd love to stay in Atlanta, but like, what is he supposed to say? Nah, Atlanta's trash. Get me out of here. Nah, like, there's just so much talk about it. So, if that happens, the concern is, what about depth, right? Because you have Trey, LeBron, and AD, and under the assumption that LeBron takes a max, you got to imagine that, you're going to be limited in what you could do. But if you had like an 18.5 million tradable salary, maybe you could flip that into two guys, right? Maybe you could go get a 10 million and like a vet minimum guy or whatever from some team. Like the Bulls are on that list. Could you, like let's say you keep a first. Like, could you go take D'Lo's money and go get an Andre Drummond and a like an Alex Caruso, or like a Torrey Craig and an Alex Caruso or something like that, right? Like, I don't know. It's just a thought, just kind of throwing things out there. But I think ultimately D'Lo will be elsewhere next year. And look, I'm a fan of D'Lo. I like D'Lo. I think he's a good player. He just unfortunately isn't what we need him to be come playoffs. Right now, like if we had the proper roster, like I know some people might not agree with this just because they're upset with D'Lo right now, but like if you were to get, say, I don't know, Donovan Mitchell, right? Just using him as an example because somebody that comes to mind, right? Like, and you did have D'Lo on the side, right? And then you went and traded for like a legit 3-and-D guy, or maybe you worked out, another thing that like popped in mind real quick, kind of digressing here a moment, but take you on this other path real quick. What about like the Pelicans? Like that could be an interesting place, right? Like trade D'Lo to the Pelicans for like Valanciunas, because Valanciunas is likely leaving, right? So, and they could really use like a playmaker, right? And he would just it would be a different role for him than what it is for the Lakers. So maybe that's something that they could work out. Just a thought. Get the Lakers a center, but no, but like again, like let's say you go and you get like some legit 3-and-D guy. You trade for Donovan Mitchell. So now you got like Donovan Mitchell, who was like all defensive type defense this season, and then you have I don't know, let's say you go get a Royce O'Neal or something, right? And he's out there defending, and then you have LeBron and AD. Right? Like maybe you could get away with D'Lo at the 2, right, and have him play off ball and just kind of be a shooter, and then even come playoff time, if you were to keep him, now like he would be our 5th guy, so it's like you're not as reliant on him. So he doesn't have to, like, if he does have an 0-7 game, like, you could still maybe win with him. Just kind of a thought. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you think D'Lo opts in? Do you think he opts out? Do you think he goes elsewhere? Yeah, when it comes to Brian Windhorst, he's often wrong when it comes to Lakers stuff, but I thought it was an interesting thought. Just wanted to talk about it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So if you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.